Hey guys, welcome back to Steel City Sports. So today I'm going to be updating my MVP rankings. We did a video like this, I think it was like week 2 or week 3, but the MVP race has really changed a lot the past couple weeks, so we're doing an updated version today. As of week 7, I'm going to give you my top 5 MVP candidates. Real quick though, I do have 2 honorable mentions. First off, we have Patrick Mahomes. I don't really think he's putting up MVP level numbers, but for the simple fact that it is Mahomes, the Chiefs are sitting at 5-0 despite being ravaged with injuries. He's going to get a lot of credit for that. But like I said, his numbers aren't great. You know, he has a 6-6 touchdown interception ratio, which is just putrid. That's a terrible start for Patrick Mahomes. And if you look on the sports, like all the sports book sites, like he is still the betting favorite to win MVP. That doesn't mean that he's the most likely to win it. That just means he's the player that most people are betting on to win the award. So I think it's kind of silly if you just, if you look at his numbers on paper, they are not MVP numbers. But got to give him an honorable mention because he's still the favorite on like DraftKings and FanDuel and all that. And then, of course, the other MVP candidate I have here as an honorable mention is Sam Darnold. He placed at number 2 on my first list. To me, he's dropped out of the top 5. It's not that he's like terrible or anything. Like I just think that production that he started off the year, he was not going to be able to keep up pace with that because the way he was playing was just completely unreal. But he's still an honorable mention because he does have the Vikings at undefeated, similar to Patrick Mahomes. But I think his individual stats, they're really good, but they don't hold up with the guys that have in the top 5. So let's get into the proper top 5 right now. Kicking off the top 5, I have Josh Allen. So if you watched my previous video in like week 3 or whatever I made that, Josh Allen was by far and away the front runner in my opinion. He was the best player in the NFL through the first like 3 or 4 weeks of the season. They were rolling. Their offense looked really good despite losing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. So I thought he was playing out of his mind. He still hasn't thrown an interception. That's kind of what got him on the list, but his individual numbers have really dropped off in terms of the MVP race. So let's take a look at his individual numbers right now. So on the season, he's thrown 1,160 passing yards, which is the lowest of all the guys in the top 5, which is, equates to 193 yards per game. That would average out to about 3,281 on the season. So that's very low for Josh Allen, but for me, the silver lining is his touchdown to interception ratio, 10-0, because we always talked about in the past, the big problem with Josh Allen was his recklessness, particularly last year. He threw so many picks. Well, we're in week 7. He hasn't thrown a single interception yet. So for me, that is single-handedly keeping him in the MVP race just because his passing numbers aren't that impressive. I don't even think his rushing numbers are that impressive. I mean, the rushing touchdowns is good. He has 3 of those, but rushing yards, 178. And, of course, we know he's not being really asked to rush as much more with the development of James Cook. But when you factor in, he's still one of the league's best players. He has the best touchdown to interception ratio of the elite quarterbacks, and he has the Bills at 4-2. I think the Bills are going to keep rolling, especially after getting Amari Cooper. But just statistically, I don't think he compares to the guys that I have ahead of him, but still has a very valid case as of this point in time. At number 4, we have the rookie sensation, Jaden Daniels, who really, really reminds me of last year's C.J. Stroud, who was in the MVP conversation as a rookie. That's exactly what Jaden is doing this year. He's having a lights-out year, leading, historically the Commanders have been a really rough team over the past couple of years, and he now has them looking like they could be a juggernaut. And, they get a couple right pieces on defense. Their offense is completely legit. They're looking like they're going to win that division right now. And no one in the, no fan, no analyst, nobody had the Commanders winning this division, myself included. It's looking like they're going to win this division right now, which is completely unheard of. But, like I said, parallel that to C.J. Stroud, no one thought the Texans were going to win that division going into last year. So he really continues that trend of the rookie sensation quarterback. Let's take a look at his individual numbers. So he's thrown for 1,404 passing yards. That averages out to 234 passing yards per game and on pace for 3,978 passing yards on the season. This, for me, is the most impressive stat right here, is his completion percentage at 75.3, which is just completely unheard of. Just for You wouldn't even think Brady would have been able to do that in his prime. For the fact that a rookie is doing that, people, I don't think comprehend how mind melting that is. That is completely unheard of in the NFL for a player to be that efficient. And like I said, he's a rookie. He has the Commanders at 4-2. He has great rushing yards as well. 322 rushing yards with 4 rushing touchdowns. To me, his stock is only going up and up, and I could see him definitely climbing the ladder as the year goes on. At the number 3 spot, I have Baker Mayfield. He was an honorable mention on the video I made a couple weeks ago. He's now climbed up into the top 3, primarily for the fact that he's leading the NFL in passing touchdowns at 15. The next closest is Geno and Burrow at 12. So he's got a comfortable lead on that. He's been really incredible. He's only really had one bad game this year against the Broncos. I guess you could count the Saints game as a bad one as well because he had 3 picks, but the offense still put up 51 points. And I really think you're starting to see more of a consistency from Baker Mayfield, which is something he always struggled with in Cleveland, with Carolina, of course. We always knew Baker Mayfield had the talent. It was just, is he ever going to be mature enough and consistent enough to really put it together as a star? He's really done that. Last year he did that, and he's just continuing on that this year. Let's take a look at his individual numbers. So he's thrown 1,489 passing yards, which is 248.2 a game. That would average out to 4,219 on the season. Touchdown to interception ratio, 15-5, so really productive there. And his completion percentage is incredible as well at 70.9. That is still insane. The fact that Jaden's at 75 obviously is insane, but 70.9, especially for Baker Mayfield. This is why he got drafted number 1 overall, is because of his accuracy at Oklahoma. I know one of his comparisons was Drew Brees because of his accuracy. So now we're finally starting to see that come around for sure. He has Tampa Bay at a 4-2 record. He's even got some decent rushing numbers. His rushing numbers are actually kind of better. Or they're not better, but they're on pace with Josh Allen. He has 136 rush yards with 2 touchdowns. He's just been playing really, really good this year. Has the Buccaneers looking as one of the best well-oiled machine offenses in the NFL. So for me, he's a legit contender for this award right now, and probably one of the most underrated guys, because I very rarely hear Baker mentioned as an MVP candidate this year, and his numbers reflect that he definitely is. As of right now, my runner-up for the NFL MVP is C.J. Stroud, just continuing his dominance from his rookie season. Looking at his numbers, he's thrown for 1,577 passing yards, which is 262.8 per game, which would average out to 4,468 passing yards for the season. That's the highest of any of the guys in the top 5. So out of my top 5 candidates, he's the most productive in the passing game. He has a 10-4 touchdown interception ratio, 68.3 completion percentage, so really efficient as well. He has the Houston Texans at 5-1. Their only loss came against the red-hot Minnesota Vikings. They've had some impressive wins this year, particularly over the Buffalo Bills. And the thing that's impressed me about their offense, too, is they win in a lot of different ways. For me, I thought going into the year, the way their offense was going to play is just come out and bludgeon people. But no, they've been able to come back from, being down. That was a big criticism of Lamar early on, was oh, he's good when they have a big lead, but he can't play from behind. CJ has played really well this year at being behind in the game and leading clutch drives to win games. So CJ's been incredible for me right now. He is just barely missing out on being the MVP this season. And well, look who we have at number 1. No stranger to the MVP conversation. Obviously won last year's MVP, won the 2019 MVP. And if the season ended today, I'd give him the 2024 MVP. He's been incredible this season. Let's take a look at his numbers. 1,529 passing yards. That averages out to 254.8 per game. So he's just slightly behind CJ in terms of his passing production. That would average out to 4,331 on the season. He's thrown has a 10-2 touchdown interception ratio. He's thrown 67%. That's his completion percentage. He has the Ravens at 4-2 after getting off to kind of a rough start. They started off 0-2. They came within a toe length of beating the Kansas City Chiefs because they would have gone for it on 2, and I think they would have won that game because all you had to do was run Derrick Henry into the end zone. I think they would have beaten the Chiefs had that been an Isaiah Likely touchdown, the first game of the season. And then, obviously, really sloppy loss to the Raiders. I think that really came down to the fact that they were just completely misusing Derrick Henry. But ever since they've been starting to use Derrick Henry correctly, this has been the most unstoppable team in the NFL. This has been the most dominant rushing, not even rushing, just backfield, whatever you want to call it, duo of running back, quarterback. We've never seen anything like this. The combination of Lamar and Derrick Henry it's not fair. It really is just a cheat code. Lamar has really obviously benefited from that. He's, of course, leading all the quarterbacks in rushing yards at 403, has 2 rushing touchdowns, just playing some incredible football right now, has some really impressive wins. They bludgeoned the Bills, they bludgeoned the Cowboys. So for me right now, Lamar Jackson would go back-to-back. That's been my MVP ladder as of Week 7. Definitely let me know your list down in the comments. And if you made it this far in the video, really appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe.